Hello, and welcome to another SSCAIT broadcast. Today I'll be your host, Chobo Swaggins, aka Jealous on Team Liquid, and I'm filling in for Nightcat, who will likely be back for the next episode of this program. It's good to be back. I hope you have all been well. I hope that for our American fans that your Thanksgiving was a joyful and enjoyable affair, and for our international fans, I hope that you are healthy and well too. Moving on, let's get into the games. This replay was posted in our SSCAIT Discord, which you can find the link for in the description below, and it's featuring Infested Artosis, the AI that spawned as the red Zerg on the top right of Benzene, and on the bottom left we have the peach Zerg Corona. Now, both players are going to be scouting across the map. This is fairly standard two-player map. I believe it was featured in the 2009 or 2010 Kespa season. I think it was played on in the OSL. Um, anyway, the first interesting thing to note here is that both players went for an Overlord, but Krona is also placing the gas early. This usually indicates the possibility of a one hatch layer build, especially since the gas has not been cancelled. Sometimes you can cancel the gas in order to get up to 10 workers quicker than you would by waiting for the Overlord, but in this case the gas has stayed up. It's immediately going to send one drone on gas, two more being sent soon afterwards, and the spawning pool is being thrown down here. Meanwhile, Infested Artosis throwing down a spawning pool as well. No gas, and therefore is ahead by one supply temporarily there. Now, the Overlords, second Overlords, are going to be going cross scout as well. What often happens in ZVZ is you send one Overlord to the natural, one Overlord to the main. Usually the first one goes to the main though, just to see what the enemy is up to. This is one of the maps with one of the longest rush distances. If you notice that there's two bridges here, there's some high grounds here, two bridges here, then making all the way over here. It's quite a long rush distance for Zerglings, so tech builds are actually quite viable on this map. And Krona actually already up to 200 gas, which is really high. You would expect possibly to see both speed and layer at the same time, and I think that that's exactly what we saw here. Speed and layer being started at the same time. Gas, well, actually no, the gas is still very high. No, sorry, no speed there. I was looking at the worker count, my fault. So this is likely going to be one hatch Mutalisk tech, as we suspected earlier. Second hatchery being thrown down by Infested Artosis, and it looks like it's going to be a classic ZVZ matchup of Zerglings against fast Mutalisk play. Second hatch also on the way for Krona. Krona is going to be going for two hatch Mutalisk, it seems like, and pardon the sound, the music right now. I seems like I loaded up the StarCraft soundtrack that has all of the music, including this being from the first mission. So for you fans who have played for a long time, this might be a throwback for you. Anyway, Zerglings making their way across the map now, trying to break through this ramp here. And given the amount of Zerglings here, I think it's almost viable, especially if more Zerglings continue to pump in. But so far, the holding of the ramp is being well done by Krona. Not exactly a perfect concave. Normally, you would see players place their Zerglings towards the top of the ramp to increase the maximum amount of surface area, but it's still definitely an acceptable amount. Injured Zerglings are still at the front. One Zergling did get misplaced here, but it doesn't look like Infested Artosis is ready to take advantage of that. And the clock is now ticking. The Spire is up for Krona. It has to hold against the Zergling pressure, and given the fact that it is 2 hatch against 2 hatch, it's quite plausible that the Zerglings will be able to hold, and it looks like Krona did successfully hold and push back the Zerglings here. It gets the favorable engage here as the returning Zerglings from Infested Artosis we're starting to bunch up one behind the other, and now it looks like it's actually going to be nope. Again, the favorable concave went to Krona here. And let's see how these engages keep going. I mean, in fighting with inferior numbers, Infested Artosis is doing a great job of pivoting back, taking out a Zergling, and then retreating yet again from superior numbers. Now that it has the numbers advantage, it might start charging forwards. But again, the Spire is almost done. Zerglings continuing to be made from Krona, though, so soon the pressure will be great on Krona. I would even consider maybe throwing down a Sunken in this position and falling back to the main where you can fight with drones, where the Sunken will be able to support. But then again, the Mutalisks will also be out very shortly, and you want to spend as much of your minerals as possible. 3 Mutalisks on the way now for Krona. infested Artosis, still not even on the way to lair, not even close. Has banked up 400 gas though, which is maybe an inefficiency here, but oh, I just missed the crucial moment where the tide had turned here. The Zerglings are going to get picked off. This is the situation where the sunken colony might have been useful. The drones are being sent out to fight without support. You probably might have wanted to run away with them, possibly just buying time for the Mutalisks, but do you really have to do that? The Mutalisks are finally out. Is there enough minerals for a drone? No, there is not. No minerals for a drone here, and we're in a classic base race scenario. Only Zerglings being made from Krona, who did not save 50 minerals for a worker. So now we have, looks like what's called 4 Mutalisks actually, 6 Zerglings against 8 Zerglings, and the Zerglings are continues to stream in. This is a classic base race scenario for ZVZ where where one of the enemies has only Mutalisks, the other one has only Zerglings, but in this case, perhaps crucially, one player has an economy and the other does not. This looks to be a third hatchery being placed, yes indeed. The Mutalisks are not firing consistently. I think, like, honestly, the micro is hurting them more than anything at this point. You don't need to micro anything here. You can just continue to sit there and pommel the economy, and it looks like Infested Artosis is just going to stay here with the drones, not going to try to run around and avoid these Mutalisk shots. In the meantime, the Zerglings are also sitting idle here. No army yet again for Krona, no army or economy, so it's a matter of time now. We're going to have to see who is going to be able to kill the other player first. So far, it seems like Krona is winning, but given the fact that more Zerglings are popping out, we're up to 16 Zerglings now, they can definitely, they have a greater killing potential than the Mutalisks do. And the Zerglings are finally coming into the main base now. There are also less buildings to take down here, and they're less spread out than they are for Krona. So I think the Zerglings are going to come out ahead here. The Mutalisks, again, not being incredibly efficient. They're also not removing the only economy left for Infested Artosis. Crucial last drone when you have less than 50 minerals left. And yeah, this looks like it's going to be a GG for Infested Artosis, who is going to push through on the power of pure Zergling, as is quite often the case in ZVZ. So let's, yeah, I think we're done with this replay. I think it's pretty clear what's going to happen here. The last building is going to get deleted by the Zerglings, and that'll be game over. This gives me an opportunity to talk about SSCAIT. That's the reason why we're here. I wanted to point out that we do have a stream going on. It should be a 24/7 stream. Sometimes it does go down. You can see it's live here on the website. The website is SSCAItournament.com. So if you're feeling like you want to watch some AI on your off time or outside of this broadcast, you're more than welcome to join us on the stream and join us in the Discord in order to discuss the games that you're seeing, possibly even recommend some good replays that you saw on stream for us to broadcast and to dissect on our bi-weekly broadcasts. Now moving on, the reason why I wanted to introduce SSCIT is because the remainder of our replays will be coming from Snail, which is the StarCraft Human and AI League. These replays are also readily available on the website. You go to leaderboard and you can say you do need to put some sort of filter in it. For example, you can select a map or you can select an AI name. In this case, what I did was I went to the ranked games and I searched for the most recent ranked games, and I picked a couple days ago that I thought would be interesting based on the AI that we saw. As you can see here, you can also download the replay to watch in your own client, or you can watch in an OpenBW. It pops up open, a convenient window for you, assuming that you have the requisite files. So I just click that button. It's going to do some automatic setup stuff, fetching some stuff, and there we are. We're right into the replay. So if you ever want to manually watch the replays on your own, fast forward through them, rewind them, this is a great way to do so. Anyway, speaking of SSCAIT, we'll do this one first. I think I kind of went in backwards order of what I was intending to do, but no big deal. Oh my fucking lord, I forgot the... God damn it. Okay. Yeah, I'm not going to restart. Alright, so now we have the replay blocker. Sorry that you had to see that. Thankfully it was ZVZ, so maybe not too surprising that that previous game was short. Now we're going to be putting the blinders on, and we're on fastest. It was recently added to to Snail, relatively recently. We have the Zerg Mad Mix Z spawning at the 12 o'clock position on fastest 5.8. This is the AI player in this case, and our opponent is www, VVV, www, A little bit of a barcode name, possibly. Not quite as frustrating as some of the others, but from now on, we'll call them, sorry, WW. So WW spawning as the Peach Protoss on the bottom left. Placing a pylon here. Yeah, this is an okay pylon. So interesting choice to go double gas from the start. This is definitely not something you typically see in PvZ or on fastest in general. Often what you'll see is going for Forge or Gateway first. Sometimes you're going for Forge because you want to go Nexus or double Nexus. Double gas kind of infers that we might be seeing something a little bit more tech-centric and aggressive. Fastest, of course, famous for the fact that there's one patch of stacked minerals in the middle. I believe there are, generally speaking, 50 minerals stacked. So up to 50 probes can be mining with 0 travel distance here. It is going to be a gateway first, so that does go back to our tech assumption here, but neither of the gases are being used, so a little bit of inefficiency here from the human player. What is our Zerg player doing in the meantime? It looks like we're opening double colony, which is also a really weird option here. 2 colonies spread out like this aren't going to be very great because they're not providing coverage to one another. Normally what you want is you want to have maybe like 2 colonies here. That way it covers almost everything that is important to you, or you can even go for colonies here and place the gas there. More gateways coming down for our Protoss player. Protoss is kind of throwing the buildings all around randomly, it seems almost like. But finally starting to mine some gas as well, putting 3 on the gas, that's fine. And we should be expecting to see a Cybernetics core in the near future now as well. So let's see how this game develops. We're now throwing down a hatchery. The hatchery is also very far forward. Normally, if you place your sunkens here, you place the hatcheries in front, and then you build sunkens here. As far as I know, a lot of the AIs were not optimized for the fastest, but I also think that you're capable of saying that my AI will not play on this map, as far as I know. So maybe a case of a little bit further optimization being needed. We're up to 4 sunkens now, and with not perfect coverage between all of them, the hatchery again is pretty far forward. But granted, there are a lot of gateways now. There's 5 gateways. Oh, it could definitely pump hard enough in order to take down all these sunken colonies. So it'd be interesting to see how this game develops from here. More gateways being thrown down. So purely aggressive build from the Protoss player. No range coming up yet. The gas has been climbing. No forge either for upgrades. I'm guessing that, yep, those are 2 forges right there. And let's speed it up a bit. We got a 3rd hatchery coming up. Again, you look there, it's basically outside the range of the sunken colonies. There's a lot of credit to building your stuff very compact on this map. Mining from both of the bottom gases, going for a 3rd gas as well now. Still many gateways kind of thrown about haphazardly. You would think that with 252 APM there might be enough APM to devote to building placement, but we don't judge here, we're just observing. One interesting thing about this map is, of course, the gases are stacked, but that also means that this gas kind of mines inefficiently. The probe pops out on this side until you place that 2nd gas on top. Probably something to do with interesting collision boxes with gases, but possibly Freakling will correct me on that if he ever sees this video. And we see a layer here, so could be some sort of tech. Lurker tech would be quite good here in this situation, although Mutalisk tech would also be great for taking down the enemy economy here. And it is indeed going to be Aspire, so it's most likely going to be Mutalisk tech. Gateway is still here, pumping upgrades from double forges. This is nice. Very heavy on the gas though, and floating a ton of minerals. Finally building some army, and looks like supply block is imminent. Maybe that is what contributed to the initial delay. But now we're going to be moving out. This army is quite sizable, but I don't think that the Protoss has scouted yet, so we might be looking at a relatively new player here. Yeah, they're going to go directly to the bottom right, and they're going to find an Overlord, but that's unfortunately not exactly what they were looking for. Taking another Overlord here as well, leaving Mad Mix Z supply blocked. Possibly would have made more sense to scout with a Zergling on this map, and Mad Mix Z is definitely scared. They're pulling all their Zerglings to the back. The army is being used to scout every base, it seems like. Finally, Mad Mix Z decides that maybe it should do scouting of its own, decides not to keep going with that line. Pylons being thrown down because the Protoss player was also supply blocked. Spore Colony and some Sunkens up front, but again, Dragoons and Zealots, and especially Dragoons, can just walk up and snipe these colonies almost one by one while only being impacted by one or the other. And the Protoss player going to the top left. So I remember now that the theory in chat was that the what's called the Protoss player was intentionally buying time so as not to kill the AI early, which I guess would make sense. It's good to practice your macro against AI possibly, but now finally WW is going to be knocking on that door in the front, and this is what I'm talking about. There's only 2 Sunkens active at any one given time, so the Dragoons are able to kind of push in very, very conveniently here, and they're getting in quite deep already. Some of the hatcheries are in danger of going down, and that is the production facilities for the Zerg player. Not going for the killing blow by going up to the main yet, but I'm guessing this replay was recommended to us for something, and yeah, that is now a lot of Mutalisks. The fact that Mutalisks can stack up means that they fare actually quite decently against anti-air units like Dragoons and Goliaths, who are somewhat limited by the by the fact that they have to clump up. Now, this was a missed opportunity. I feel like taking down that Spire could have saved the Protoss a lot of headaches in the long term, but the supply difference is already massive. 23 supply to 105. Supply blocked is Mad Mix Z, and now the last of the Dragoons are going to finally go into that defensive back line of Sunkens. Still going to be pummeling some of the economy, and barely holding on is Mad Mix Z. And now the Protoss player is in a good position, adding a mix of units: Dragoons, Zealots, Sayers, Scouts, Templar, Arbiter, and and Fleet Beacon already up, and now going for the triple Nexus in the back. So yeah, definitely seems like we have a situation where the human player intentionally kind of slowballed a little bit, possibly. They're going for a suboptimal build to start, going for some scouting with your whole army to every corner before pushing the enemy, and is now allowing some time for Mad Mix Z to recuperate. Mad Mix Z still tremendously behind in workers, 17 workers to, 20 workers to 55 now. Sending some Zealots again is WWVV, possibly trying to free up some supply that it's not going to need in the long term. Looks like a shuttle was made, hopefully for dropping Templar. What you can do is drop a Zealot and some Templar and take down... Oh, he just decided to walk there, huh? Almost made it too. But anyway, the idea is that you drop a Zealot, that draws all the Sunken Fire, then you drop the 2 Templar and you storm the economy, and all the drones go pop, and that is especially devastating on this map. In this case, it doesn't seem we're going to be seeing that quite yet. It also should be noted that Mad Mix Z seems to be aware of this and is keeping their Mutalisks close to that mineral line so as to prevent any drops from taking place. But now we're seeing Carriers, Arbiters, and WWV is looking for probably stylish is a better word, stylish finishing blow here. And I'm going to speed it up just a little bit more, because it seems like WWV is taking their sweet old time waiting to mass up to 200, and not quite there yet. I'm going to mute myself real quick so I can do a quick cough, sorry. Okie dokes. So now Mad Mix Z starts thinking that it might be time to start being aggressive, but the opponent is at double the supply, and Mad Mix Z is definitely not in a position to engage quite yet, I think. More production facilities being thrown down. Another expansion at the bottom right. 83 workers. I think it's quite comfortable. Quite easy to say that WWVV is very comfortable here. Adding pylons here to potentially slow down the AI, but Mad Mix is not going to fall for it. Mad Mix is going to scout the bottom base now for whatever reason with the Mutalisk. It's going to start attacking that pylon as well. Going to be annoying to our human player. Human player banking up quite a lot of resources, possibly worried about the long-term potential of the AI, and that might be, again, the reason why we've seen it stalling for so long. I'm starting to believe more and more into this theory as opposed to the theory that they're just a relative beginner. But yeah, a lot more Sunkens now adding some Ultralisks and Zerglings. Ultralisks fare quite well against Protoss in general, but not when they have such a heavy composition consisting of Dragoons and Archons. Dragoons do quite well against Ultralisks if there's no Dark Swarm. Dark Swarm also could have been a potential option here that would make it difficult for our range-based human player here. Taking another base up here as well. Taking another base down here as well. It looks like we're going for a complete dominance in this match, and definitely out to practice our macro. Adding cannons in the middle might be a little bit suboptimal here. Finally, the Mulisks arrive at the economy, but it looks like it's a little bit too late given the worker count here. And when are we going to start seeing Mad Mix finally decide to move out? We are getting close to max. Finally starting to move in here. Templar getting ready for Storm. It looks like, yeah, this is definitely being used for practice for human games, I have to feel like. Working on reaction time, having proper placement of Templar and Storm placement, working on their economy. And yeah, the AI can definitely be used for that purpose, and that is another reason why you should consider using Snail. Look at production up top. Obviously, it's only possible because it's not maxed out itself, adding even queens now, and now we're going to start seeing some of the more massive battles. Zerglings, Ultralisks running into the base here. Let's look at the army counts here. Yeah, quite a diverse army, again, from the Protoss player. Mad Mix Z, also quite a diverse army with the Queen as well. Maybe some Broodlings would help against those Templar. Trying to push forward with hatcheries. Probably could have afforded to have a little bit more hatchery density in the main base. One thing we typically see from Zerg players on this map is, 50 hatcheries in their main base, producing non-stop waves, quicker than even Protoss production on 1 or 2 bases could keep up. Now, the Queen doesn't seem to be engaging all that much. Storms are finally going down. Now we have Dark Swarm possibly, or Plague. Looks like no. The Defiler did not have the energy, maybe no consume yet. And yeah, it looks like this is going to be kind of the where the battle lines are drawn here, where there's going to be trench warfare more or less. Zerglings running in relatively feudally. I'm going to speed up a little bit while looking at this area here because I want to see how this tug-of-war goes. If the Protoss player is going to be able to keep up with the constant pressure from the Zerg player. And again, it should be noted that the Protoss player really hasn't attacked from the first engagement. It looks like they're just intent on holding the map, but Mad Mix does have this expansion here now. They are starting to take down some of the cannons. The army is looking quite thin defensively here, and the Ultralists are doing a great job of taking some shots. And now the cannons are going down, the hatcheries are being placed forward, Dark Swarm and Lurkers, and I'm now waiting for the human player to turn it up. They are peaking at around 300 APM here and there. Carriers are still proving to be a problem, no Scourge and not enough anti-air, stasis going down from the Arbiters, but yeah, this is starting to look a little dangerous for the human player. Carriers are in sufficient number to stem the tide for now, no additional cannons are being made. Let's see the production. Production is actually quite slow for the human player, but again, the human player is also maxed out. Possibly doesn't require as much production. Meanwhile, the Zerg is pumping on, it is pumping an insane amount of units here. Let's slow it down a little bit here. We can afford to do that. We have plenty of time today. And yeah, the Zerg is doing a tremendous job pressuring out. Pure Carrier is not seeming to hold off. Even despite the fact that there's not a lot of anti-air here, there's just too many units for the carriers to focus on. They become less efficient as they do so, and now the gateways are in danger. There's quite a lot of gateways here. It looks like they almost blocked off the entire exit. No defensive cannons here, and it looks like this base is actually going to go down. The human player may be bit off more they can chew by allowing Mad Mix to get to this state of the game. And even this base is going to be pressured soon. I mean, Lurkers and Hydras in low count is probably not the best way to do so. Still a lot of cannons here. But I have the suspicion that our human player maybe is feeling a little bit of panic now. Looks like the interceptors are being targeted here, not the individual carriers, which is not a great move from the Hydralisks. 12 Hydras can easily, I think they could probably 3 or 4 pump a carrier at this point. And with these numbers, these carriers would be in a lot of danger, especially with the acid spores from the Devourers on them. So maybe something that needed to be added, but at the same time, interceptors take time to rebuild, and the interceptor count is now dangerously low for these carriers, it seems like. Is there going to be interceptor production? Yes, indeed, there is going to be restarting now. A large part of this base has been damaged. Going to the bottom base here, the bottom base is now being targeted and taken down here. 100 workers for WWV and 44,000 minerals. Maybe this was their intended goal, is to practice their macro, as I said before. And they are indeed pumping now from a large amount of production facilities, perhaps stymied by the layout of their base. They kind of didn't make the most efficient use of their base. They only have 7 gateways here now. There's some gateways being thrown down here as well, it looks like. And both players now at 200 supply. Let's see if the human player is able to stem the flow of the Zerg horde. Zerg is continuing to push from all sides. Gas being mined, it looks like it does require additional gas. The gas is still quite low. That's why I built this hatchery here. This is an interesting move. Looking at the engages here, storms are being thrown down. A finite resource in such a crucial... Oh, and yeah, this production tab is getting insane. I'm going to get rid of that. Pure Hydra now coming out, probably in order to deal with these carriers. A couple of lurkers being thrown in there just for annoyance factor. A defiler here where Dark Swarm and Plague would be useful against the carriers as well. Guardians not really doing much in this case, but we're useful for shooting the Templar from a long distance. Hydra's not pushing into the main base, and I'm starting to lose faith in our Protoss hero here. Production facilities are not being used to their maximum potential. Army count looking quite low, despite the fact that they're maxed. Maybe the 92 workers are contributing factor here, and this is a lot of Zerg stuff. I mean, against Zerg, just carriers are not enough. You need those splash damage units. You need those Templar and Reavers in this case in order to take down the Hydralisks. So lurkers are pushing in. This Mad Mix is going ape in this base. It looks like the economy is definitely going to go down here if the pressure continues. But then again, Mad Mix doing a great job here. They're going to start rerouting their army to this much less defended top left base with a lot less production here. It looks like the tech was built as a backup here instead of production, actually. This could prove fatal for our human player who's down to 100 supply, 20 workers. Definitely bit off more than they can chew. Definitely did not keep up the macro if that's what they were intending to practice. Should work on their building placement and should maybe finish their food, as they say. Looks like Mad Mix is going to take this one shortly, with every base being sieged up. I mean, they did leave this Nexus here, though. This is a crucial Nexus to leave alive, but I think that spiritually, WW has been broken here, and very soon there's not going to be much left in the way of economy. I mean, 49,000 minerals, they're not really exactly wanting for minerals. They could pump out several 200 armies, but from what production facilities? Our player with 300 APM is simply not keeping up. Case of jittery fingers, perhaps. And yeah, I'm going to speed up here because I think at this point it's just a cleanup. I don't see our human player keeping up with this level of production, this 17,000 APM, with their buildings going down, with their economy in shambles. The Defiler just chilling here, and it looks like maybe WW just wanted to stick around for the show. Maybe they just wanted to see how the AI would take them down after they've gotten such a massive lead early on in the game. And yeah, I think we can call it here. We don't need to see. Oh, look at this. Yeah, rebuilding the tech again, placing some random buildings. This is what I mean by layout, by the way. This kind of hurts my soul. I used to love placing my gateways in really neat, orderly fashion. But here they could fit like 30 gateways here, and they only fit 5 and 4 very delayed robotics facilities. I think that's, yeah, robotics facilities. So yeah, this is definitely going to be a GG. The Reavers pop out only to be instantly taken down without firing a single Scarab. Dark Swarm being thrown down against Dark Templar, which is not really what you need, and I guess we're going to finish this map at this point because this Nexus is going to go down, and that's going to be the last building that we see, I think. Oh no, there's one gateway with one Zealot here. They're microing the Zealot. That's hilarious. That's cute, WW. That's cute. But GG, you played with your food too much, and that is going to be the end of this replay. Moving on to the next game, we have our usual host, Nightcat, spawning at the top left as the White Taran on Fighting Spirit, and their opponent is going to be Monster, the Red Zerg, the quite possibly the best Zerg nowadays, although others have been climbing, rising in contention for this position. Did my music just straight up stop? Oh no, I hear it. It's just quiet Protoss music. Anyway, some Mutalisk-based improvements have been made. Looks like it's going to be a really early drone scout from Monster, a very uneconomical approach to the matchup. Normally you wouldn't drone scout in ZVT, I think, although maybe worried about BBS in some scenarios. Is most likely going to find their opponent last, sending the Overlord in kind of an interesting way. I guess the Overlord is the one that scouts for the BBS in the middle of the map. BBS, of course, standing for Barracks Supply. It's a famous cheese build. In the meantime, it looks like Nightcat is going to open standard with a barracks inside the main. And I believe the premise of this game was that there was a recent a discussion about the viability of Goliaths and Goliath-based openings, in particular against Monster. Monster known for their oppressive late game with swarms covering the whole map, and Mech thus seems to be a potential solution to that situation, given the fact that mines are kind of the solution towards a swarm-based play, and so are siege tanks. Of course, irradiates are also useful, but the speed with which Monster gets to that point in the game often means that you just can't stem the tide, and the high APM and great placement just pushes most ranged units that Taran have all the way back to their main base. And Monster is going for a very standard 3-hatch opener here. Nothing unexpected here. Meanwhile, Nightcat also going for a very standard build, going for that forward command center. I'm sorry, that fast command center off of one barracks, and adding a second barracks as well. This is probably going to be an an academy. Yep, indeed. So opening with Bio and possibly transitioning into Goliaths in this case, or actually now that I'm thinking about it, this was possibly a situation where they were exploring ways to bust Monster. Maybe we didn't get to those replays where the Goliaths were meant to be taking down the opponent. Ah, yes, now I remember. So the discussion was like, is there any chance of just cheesing Monster early in the game because they under-defend 2 colonies that are not yet sunken against 12 Marines, 2 medics? It should be a fight that that the Taran player should be able to win, especially when going for straight Mutalisks. I mean, doesn't seem like there's speed yet for the Zerglings. There's not a high number of them. They're not in a place to flank. So I think that it's quite plausible that this move in will work, but no, the engage was not great. And the Zerglings are doing a good job of pulling forward, pulling back, and yeah, this is going to get cleaned up now. So yeah, definitely enough done by the Zerg there to hold off in time for the Mutalisks. Yeah, in human games, you often see way more than 2 sunken colonies in order to hold off, but perhaps maybe there's some sort of sunken micro going on. That would actually be quite smart. Imagine if the sunkens could target specific Marines in order to ensure that their hits arrive at the same time, and therefore there's not enough time to heal. I believe 2 sunken hits does indeed kill 1 Marine outright, so could be a way to abuse the APM available to AI. It would be interesting if that's the case. If you know the answer to that question, would be very welcome if you mention it in the comments on this video, or in the chat, or in the Discord. Moving on, we have 2 of the replays that I picked up from from the Schnail game list ladder. So the reason why I picked these 2 replays is because, first of all, they're from from the same player, aka Trig, also known as Yoon on the server, and second reason is because of their opponents. In this case, we have Yoon versus Adias. Adias is spawning as the green Taran at the top right of Electric Circuit, and at the top left we have Trig, aka Yoon, our Protoss player. Now, Yoon plays several races, I've noticed from the replays that I browsed through briefly. And I guess I didn't finish talking about why I said I picked his replays in particular, or sorry, their replays in particular. The reasoning being here is that Yoon clearly has to be at the top of the ladder in order to be matching up against such strong AI as Adias and Stardust. They're close to the top of the Schnail ladder, and therefore Yoon must be close to the top of the human ladder. There's not a separate ladder for humans, but he must be at a comparable LO rating in order to be matching up against these AI. So that means that this is a pretty good player, and he's facing up against pretty good AI. So I want to see what is the status of the current upper tier of player versus AI games. I know, given that I am officially washed myself, I haven't been able to play very much, and when I do play, I play against the built-in AI. Gas Steel, by the way, immediately pulling 4 SCVs here. That's an interesting choice. That could actually really heavily impact the, what's called? Ooh, lost the probe there. That could really heavily impact the economy of the Taran player. What you can do is you can cancel the assimilator. Therefore, you only lost a little bit of opportunity time because you had 100 minerals invested into a throwaway army, and that, yes, you can come back and you can steal the assimilator yet again. This greatly delays the factory timing, and of course factory units are crucial in this matchup. However, Yoon, it should be noted, is late to their gas as well. So finally this gas gets taken out, and the AI is actually kind of lax to getting to it. Yoon trying to pressure this bunker is going to excuse me, be able to do so. But the Marines are microing quite nicely here. Saida, of course, being the infamous. I'm sorry, did I say Saida? Adias is the clone of Saida. Saida being the infamous Samsung developed AI that was created several years ago. The Zealot finds a nice little corner here and gets an SV for a shuttle, but both of the other Zealots get taken out. And now another Zealot runs in. It's probably going to get tickled down eventually as well, but buying quite a bit of time. In the meantime, though, the AI has taken the command center in the natural. These Zealots, as they run past, are getting almost chipped up entirely to zero, so even just SCVs chasing it around might be able to damage it. But now there's two Zealots there. Quite an annoying position for this Protoss player to be in. And interesting way to hide the Cybernetics core, maybe trying for some sort of mind games or something, finally going for the Nexus as well. So it can be said that even though quite a bit of damage was done by the human player, they are behind in economy, and that's partially because of the fact that they weren't able to multitask to the level of AI, and also partially because of the fact they forced the Taran player into a fast command center with no factory, but then didn't do enough to punish it, and now there's going to be double the production until this Nexus finally finishes. So I would have to say advantage the AI in this scenario. First, Vultures out. Vultures are going to be good against the Zealots that were out there before, but they're not going to be that great against the Dragoons. Looks like Dragoon range is done, and now we can start hammering away at this bunker from maximum range. There are certain areas from which you can reach the bunker without being hit by the bunker itself, and it looks like we found a nice little spot here, and it's going to be interesting to see the control here. Diving in for the siege tank are the Dragoons, but in the meantime they are taking a lot of I almost said a lot of shits. They're taking a lot of hits from the bunker, and the tank wanders out a little bit too far forward, gets sniped. That is one of the dangers, but two Dragoons go down for the same price. That is usually a trait that I will take as the Protoss player, but again, look at the worker count. The worker count from Anonymous AI, aka Adias in this case, 38 to 24. This is where the AI really shines. As the human player is focused entirely on the Dragoons at the front, even despite doing that, having three of them in the red now, dangerous position to be in, they have not been consistently pumping probes, they have not been sending them to mine, and the economy difference is too great at this point. They have not been able to bust through. I mean, granted, there are like 7 idle SCVs here. One of them is actually in range of the Dragoons. That is the danger when you hit a critical number of Dragoons, is the fact that you don't have enough surface area to surround, especially when you build this turret here. I think the SCV can walk through this way. It might be a little bit awkward to do so, but now we have siege mode, and the Dragoon pressure is going to go down. Perfect distance on that siege, by the way, and no reaction from our human player. Takes a ton of damage from that. You never want to lose your Dragoons for free in that scenario, because soon enough the Taran push is going to be coming afterwards. And now, I mean, he's continuing to try to pummel this. He's going to try to run in. This is an ill-advised choice. He thought he might be able to snipe, but look at the SCVs being pulled in order to block the Dragoons from hitting that tank. That tank is going to be able to survive. All the Dragoons are going to go down, and this was a fatal error from our human player. You have to believe it. The supply difference now, the human player is behind by 14 supply, a situation you never want to find yourself in as a Protoss against Taran, especially a Taran that is economically advantaged against you. More Dragoons being rallied forward. SCV still scouting the main base, still keeping tabs on the opponent. More gateways being thrown down. Finally, a robotics facility. It's going to be very late. The human player knows that the threat of mines is coming. I just want to note, I mean, how great that defense was from Adias here. First of all, the maximum range siege tank in a very safe position, the placement of the building so that the Dragoons can't get to it closely, and recognizing that now the bunker is not being targeted, pulling the SCVs to body block the Dragoons. That was just a really impressive display of AI from an AI that has not been updated in several years. So I think that was a great move, a great display of what AI is capable of. So now that we're kind of stuck in this little dance here where the engineering bay is verifying the position of the Dragoons, the tank doesn't quite want to siege up and potentially expose itself. Now we're finally getting the siege up, but it's still outside the range of the Dragoons. We're going to probably see this dance for a little while. The SCVs are staying idle. The Protoss player is trying to catch up in supply, though, and worker count, 42 workers to 51 now. Siege mode finally reaching, and ooh, sneaky vultures running past, but it looks like they're not going to be able to get much done. Mine does go off, does some damage. I would have expected maybe this to be a good opportunity to send those 2 vultures forward. It's super annoying for Protoss when there are mines on your resupply route, but it looks like Trig is aware of that threat. He has both observers here, sending one forward now, and left some dragoons here just in case the vultures did attempt a run by. Really dangerous technique that can be done by the Taran players in general. So third nexus is going up and third command center going up. Third command center is going to be a little bit earlier, so staying ahead in the economy and in the expansion game is the Taran player. Adding a science facility and an armory already. Looks like it's the second armory, yes indeed, and we have a dropship as well. So this is one thing that, if I recall correctly, Saida and Adias were one of the front runners in is using dropship technology and to their maximum advantage. And he's going to hug this map. This is definitely not the optimal route to take. Most human players would probably circumnavigate these dragoons and fly around this way if you were following the minimap. Sorry about that. But Saida likes to go for the safer route. He's going to just hug the edge of the map. And I guess the advantage of that is he's going to scout most of the bases, and this is going to apply to most maps where a lot of the bases are going to be right along the edge of that map. This map in particular, though. So trying to whittle down the count of mines in the front just to apply a little bit of pressure on the Taran player, but the Taran player is now going up to 7 factories back here. The human player is at 7 gateways. General rule of thumb, you want at least 1.5 times the amount of gateways as your opponent has factories, so 7 times 1.5, and roughly 11 at least gateways that you would want in order to engage against a force being produced from 7 factories. One advantage that they do have is that they have shuttles and zealots. This has been kind of a trend in recent PvT. Maybe not so recent anymore. It started about 3 years ago. Having like double shuttle with the shuttle speed upgrade in order to engage against Terran forces, using the shuttles to drop zealots on tanks, clear mines, hopefully hoping to get splash damage on the vultures that just laid them. And it also opens up the possibility of harass. For example, you can always drop, like, I don't know, a couple of dragoons here, clear out the mines. But the mines are placed defensively ahead of time. That's a very smart play. That's going to help later as well against recalls if they do come in. Shuttle seems to be considering this option maybe, but the observer is aware of the mines. Shuttle is not actually going to go. And, ooh, the dropship has arrived back. Did they drop anything? Yeah, sorry, I missed that. Looks like the vultures were dropped here. I don't know how many workers went down, but the economies are quite similar now. 61 workers to 57. Taran on 3 bases is probably close to saturated with 57. You could go for a couple more SCVs if you want maximum saturation, but around 50 to 57 SCVs is enough for now, possibly, especially given the fact that AI mine more efficiently. Sorry about that. Give me 1 second to cough. Alright, the vultures are trying to make their way out. They're trying to run by, but they're being taken down by these dragoons yet again. The human player floating quite a lot of minerals. You definitely don't want to be floating that number of minerals on only 7 gateways and 3 bases, but we are going up to 4 bases now. The Taran is gearing up for a push soon. It definitely feels that way. 30 supply advantage. Still ahead in workers. 62 workers now against 57. Sorry, 57 was the human player. Definitely needs more workers as a Protoss player. Protoss human player is going to try to run in here. I think that's very ill-advised. There's simply not enough army here. The shuttles are not here. There's a science vessel even. The vultures are going to run around behind. They're going to try to run by. I thought that they might lay some mines. No, a lot of these dragoons are going to go down now. This is a terrible, terrible loss for the human player. Army supplies, 30 different for the Protoss player. Not enough gateways to resupply. And the production is in favor of the Protoss player, but yeah, I just don't see it. I just don't see how the Protoss player will be able to stop this push. Again, this is towards the higher levels of the ladder in Schnell, both for the AI and the humans. So, let's see. these Dragoons are going to get cleaned up, and it feels like there's not much left in it for the human player after this. It seems that they basically might have given up after their early failures to break in, and frankly, I would have probably called it after losing 6 Dragoons for 0 tank kills. But, you know, it was a valiant effort. We have some Templar out here. We do have 4 bases and some probes trying to make their way there. Mines are going to explode here. Mines are going to do damage here. That's not good, but okay, the Zealots caught most of them, trying to catch some of these vultures in the splash damage, do indeed do so. But now there's no Zealots to keep pushing towards those tanks. Those Dragoons are going to get eaten up from range. Is there going to be a storm in our near future? No, the Templar goes down as well. Maybe tried to storm the tanks, and now the Dragoons are melting into blue goo, and the human player taps out. So yeah, that's I guess a good example of the power of the top AI in the SSCAIT and Schnail server. So if you're interested in trying your own hand against these AI, you're definitely more than welcome to do so. And again, credit to the developers of Schnail. I'm sorry. Developers of SAITA, there's too many S names, for this tank micro we saw here, this decision making, this building placement, the general knowledge of the game and the matchup in order to approach it in this way, you know, going for a command center after having your gas denied. The Protoss player definitely tried their best to be annoying, but unfortunately it was too little to stop the 26,000 APM AI. And we're going to move into our last game of the day. It is, again, going to be Trig, now choosing to go Zerg, possibly hoping to cheese out one of the top AIs. And in this case, the top AI, the anonymous AI, is the Teal Protoss named Stardust. So Stardust spawning as the Teal Protoss on the bottom left, like 8 o'clock-ish on Neo Medusa. Yoon spawning at the bottom right, 4 o'clock-ish as the yellow Zerg, and immediately we can note that there is no further drone production for Trig, 150 minutes, so it is going to indeed be a 5 pool, hoping to take advantage of the fact that it is up against a Protoss player. Protoss players tend to go for the Nexus first, or Forge expand, and the Zerglings can get there sooner because those buildings are at the front of the base. We see a probe scout going out for Stardust, but unfortunately for our friend Trig, it is not going to be forward base for an expand or a forge. Interesting and horrible mining path here, by the way. I doubt that is AI efficient. I think the AI can do a better job with that. But yeah, it's going to be pylon in the main, which usually infers either 2 gateway or 1 gateway tech build. Neither of which is, I would say, particularly strong against a Zergling opener, but it in some ways is easier to manage because you should be able to get out of Zealot. You can use your probes to micro against the Zerglings, and fortunately for our human player, the probe scout did not scout the fact that it's going to be a 5 pool quite yet. Looks like gas is being thrown down. This is in order to build extra Zerglings. Yep, that's the extractor trick I discussed earlier. Definitely needs an Overlord soonish though. Definitely messed up the build slightly. 1 Zergling is trapped, so now making their way out. The probe is going to see it now though. Gateway is up, 2nd pylon is on the way. I'm curious what the response is going to be. The drone is going to scout the expansion right at the time that the Zerglings will have to pivot direction, so yeah, that's pretty good. What's the pivot timing? Yeah, a little bit delayed. Not so bad though. Ooh, taking the wide walk. Yeah, this is somewhere you don't want to be, so I guess that works out in favor of the AI here. The probe is distracting one of the Zerglings. It was definitely sent on a move, and the probe is doing a great job of doing so, constantly changing direction and staying ahead of the slow Zergling. Zergling's going to make their way up here. Zealot is here. Immediate reaction is to dance around like crazy. Zerglings are going to try to surround the Protoss. Zealot is not going to allow that. Pulls back all the way to the economy, going to try to take down the gateway. This is a smart move from the AI. I'm sorry, from the human player. I like that, but there is a 2nd gateway up now. Waiting for a 2nd Zealot is the AI. Second Zealot is out. Still not feeling confident to engage. You can still hold with just one gateway. Losing that second gateway does hurt, of course, but one gateway production should be enough to hold now that there's 2 Zealots on the map. Still unsure of how to approach this. Probes get pulled momentarily and instantaneously from the Zerglings seeking to run in. And ooh, nice surround here on this Zealot. Zealot tries to pivot out. Zerglings continue to target that one injured Zealot, but now there's only one Zergling in it. The economy is still fragile for the Zerg player. Zerglings now running around on either side, and this is the weakness of going for 5 pool, is when your initial rush fails. And I like this decision from the AI. They placed 2 hidden gateways up there, something that most Zerg players might not notice. The only reason that our player did is because they ran up there, and they are going to start pommeling down that pylon. That is one of the disadvantages of going for these hidden gateways, is that you've minimized the amount of support you get. Some players, when they do a Zergling rush, they prefer to go for the pylon instead of the gateway. This gateway is in danger of going down, but looks like the Zerglings are going to go down instead. These 2 gateways are still up and running, and they're going to be pumping out units. Cybernetics Core being thrown down, and this is the infamous Stardust. 1 base, 4 gateways, Mass Dragoons, taking advantage of the fact that it has the better economy management. It doesn't need as many probes to milk as much as they possibly can out of Mineral Line. And seeing that the end is near, our player Yoon taps out. And that concludes our broadcast as well. I hope you enjoyed the games today. I hope that you join us in our SSCAIT Discord, and there's also a Chanel Discord. I hope to see you try your own hand at fighting against these monstrous AIs on the Chanel ladder. And if you're more programming inclined, I definitely suggest that you check out the SSCAIT Discord. We have new people coming in quite frequently, actually, talking about how they're working on developing an AI, how they might need some advice soon. And of course, our existing veteran members are always more than glad to help, as long as you're being productive and constructive and showing that you're putting in the work yourself. I'm sure that anyone would be glad to help introduce a new AI into this fascinating and very competitive scene. But I think I've spoken way too long. My mouth is hella dry. I've definitely fallen out of form in terms of doing this. So yeah, again, thanks for sticking around. Thanks for having me again. Thanks for listening to me again. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys are looking forward to next broadcast with Nightcat. Thank you all so much. Have a wonderful day, a wonderful week, wonderful month, wonderful end of the year, wonderful everything. Take care.